Hello, my name is Orla. Welcome to my channel. In this channel I read short stories for children and adults who are interested in them. In this video I'll be reading another story from the great book Girls Who Slay Monsters, written by Ellen Ryan with beautiful illustrations done by Shona, Shirley, MacDonald. And these are the daring tales of Ireland's forgotten goddesses. So get cozy, cuddle down, and we will begin. In this video, I'll be reading the story of Branwen. She's a Welsh goddess. And that's her there, with all the lovely birds. And Branwen is peace negotiator. Branwen was a caring, raven-haired goddess who, with her two giant brothers, Efnisien and Bran, ruled over Wales from a castle on Harlick's sea-sprayed dunes. However, Branwen disagreed with her brothers on one important issue: how they handled the country's wealth. From herds of cows to mines of gold, the giants took however much they wanted to spend as they choose. "My brothers," Branwen told him, "you can't use up all our resources as your personal piggy bank." The boys didn't listen to her, and any mortal who challenged the giants' behaviour were crushed in their boulder-like fists. Branwen did her best to keep the peace by helping her subjects in other ways. She had the power to talk to animals in their own secret language. So during calving season, she visited farms and assisted any heifers that were having trouble in labour. She would snort and grunt instructions to steady their breathing, or ask if they needed water or more hay to lie upon. As the sun set every evening, she patrolled the borders of the local land, listening out for wolves in the dark. Every now and then, from deep in her belly, she let out a menacing, warning growl, sending predators a message to slink back into the forests. The mortals valued her small kindnesses, but they weren't enough. The older her brothers got, the more they ate slaughtered livestock by the hundreds for every meal. But when they finally spent all the royal gold on parties and wine, they demanded offerings from starving mortals, threatening to throw them out of their homes if they refused. The time had come to act. Branwen arranged to marry MacDonald, the enormously rich mortal king of Ireland. He owned a magical cauldron that could bring dead soldiers back to life, so he had the largest army in the world. He was also said to be a vain and cruel man, but she hoped as his wife to use some of his wealth to help her people. Greedy Bran was happy with the arrangement, but when Efnisien heard news of her betrothal, he was furious. "I'm your older brother, and I will decide who'll have you for a wife." Growing up with two bullies had taught the goddess how to stand up for herself. "I don't wish to fight you, Efnisien," she said, "but my wedding is going ahead whether you approve or not." And so, a few days later, the Welsh people watched and waved in delight as Matholwch's royal troops arrived in a parade of colour. Their famous dappled stallions shimmered and pranced, tossing their luscious manes and showing off royal bridles of bright silver. Entertainers sang, minstrels performed, and fireworks erupted and whizzed into the sky like brilliant shooting stars. Branwen invited all the people of Harlech to the castle, and together they enjoyed a royal feast of cheesy rarebit, salty seaweed bread, and call cumrig, a broth of leeks and buttery swedes. Evnisian sulked his way through the wedding, swilling ale and spitting insults at the Irish visitors. Eventually he got so drunk he decided to cause some real trouble. He slipped out to the livery yard, and with his huge hands twisted the legs of Matholwch's prized royal horses. As the dancing in the castle ended and the music faded, the Irish guests heard shrill whinnying and went running to find their animals disfigured. They were outraged and ready to attack all of the whales. Branwen desperately needed to protect her people, so she secretly offered gold to her brothers if they apologised to Matholwch and made amends. Greedily, though reluctantly, the giants did as she asked. Matholwch was nervous of the scary brothers, so he pretended to accept their gestures and agreed to peace. But in his mean heart, every time he looked at Branwen, his new bride, he thought bitterly of her brother's betrayal. So once he'd brought the goddess back to his home in Ireland, he imprisoned her in the castle kitchens. Branwen couldn't believe where she found herself. The kitchen was a dark stone basement with only one small slit window, and it stank of raw meat and festering fish. "How can you treat me like this?" Branwen asked. "I'm your wife." "This is better than you deserved," Matholwch said, "as punishment for your brother's crimes against Ireland." Then he told Branwen she must cook from dawn until dusk and sleep on old rags by the fire pit. Shocked and disgusted, the goddess refused to carry out his penal labour, but was forced into it by the royal cook, who slapped her so often and so hard that her skin was left red and raw. Branwen was wise enough not to fight back and risk further punishment. Instead, she secretly planned her escape. Late at night, when the cook left the kitchen for bed, the goddess rushed to the slit window and looked out into the dark. Her sharp eyes spotted many birds nesting in the trees. Cuckoos, wrens, ravens, and starlings. Using their own language, she asked them to come and help her. The birds woke to hear Branwen's shrill, jumping whistles and low hoots across the night air. One of the brightest birds, a starling, was the first to reach her. Branwen took an apple from the kitchen and hastily carved a secret note into the skin. The starling took the apple in his beak and, on the goddess's command, soared over the Irish Sea to find her brothers. As soon as they read Branwen's message, Efnisien and Bran gathered soldiers from 154 regions of Wales to attack MacDonald. The giants were so huge they simply waded through the sea alongside their soldiers' ships. They were determined not only to save Branwen, but also to declare war on MacDonald, whom they didn't like. When the starling returned to Branwen with news of their approach and plans, her first reaction was triumph. She was like, yeah, MacDonald and his cook deserve to suffer for their crimes. But then the goddess considered all the innocent mortals across Ireland who would get caught up in the fight. Not only that, but her husband's soldiers would surely counterattack Wales in revenge. I can't allow it, she told the starling. I won't see 2 beautiful lands laid to waste because of me. So as soon as the Welsh army arrived at the castle to break her free, she insisted her brothers and husband listen to her speak before they went into battle. I'm sick of your troublemaking and fighting. I command all of you to make peace. If you refuse, I will call out to my animal friends and drive flocks of snapping birds down upon your heads and pick out your eyes. The Welsh knew how powerful Branwen was. Very quickly word spread of her frightening threats, so the Welsh and Irish armies agreed to lay down their weapons. But her brothers and husband were too stubborn to follow orders. As hard as she tried to stop them, the men launched into a deadly duel in the king's castle. Efnisien easily slayed the mortal king, MacDonald, but when he tried to destroy the Irish king's magic cauldron, its power overwhelmed and killed the giant. Bran was attacked by MacDonald's army and after a bloody battle was beheaded. Branwen's brothers and husband were dead, and so the goddess became ruling queen of both Wales and Ireland. The mortal armies gladly bowed to her for saving them from war. In just a few short years, the Irish people grew to love and respect Branwen just as the Welsh did. The kind queen distributed her late husband's wealth across Wales and Ireland, supporting farms and creating new jobs. And Branwen's reign was a most prosperous and peaceful time for both countries. There we go. Another great story from Girls Who Slay Monsters. Until the next one, bye bye.